Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving deep into the tragic final moments of Air India Flight 171. We're going to look at all the evidence and try to figure out just how a state-of-the-art airplane could literally fall out of the sky, and more importantly, if this whole disaster could have been avoided.
So, picture this. June 12, 2025. A brand new Boeing 787 Dreamliner, flight AI-171, is getting ready to head to London. Everything seems normal. But just seconds after takeoff, something goes horribly, horribly wrong. Let's break down those critical moments.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It's staggering. We're talking about just 34 seconds. 34 seconds from a normal takeoff to an absolute catastrophe. The plane climbs to only 625 feet, that's barely off the ground, and it stalls. The pilot gets out one quick distress call, thrust not achieved, and then nothing. The crash didn't just kill the 242 people on the plane, it took so many more lives on the ground too.
Okay, so investigators have the black box, but that data doesn't come out right away. The first clues, the very first pieces of this puzzle, actually came from the ground, from evidence that was just captured by pure chance. Yeah, the first real breakthroughs didn't come from any official report. They came from two videos. One was a grainy airport CCTV clip, but the other was a much clearer video shot by a 17-year-old kid named Aryan. He was just trying to film a cool video of a plane taking off for his friends. He had no idea he was about to capture a disaster.
Now, when experts started analyzing these videos, they saw some huge problems. First, the landing gear was still down. Okay, that's weird, it adds drag. But the real shocker, the wing flaps were retracted. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, flaps are absolutely essential for takeoff. They come out from the back of the wing to create the extra lift you need to get a massive jet into the air. To see them pulled in, that's not just a mistake, that's a gigantic red flag. We're not talking about a small oversight here. This points to something being fundamentally wrong with the whole system.
And then, on top of the videos from the outside, we have the absolutely chilling testimony from the one person who survived inside the plane. He talked about hearing a loud bang and then seeing the lights flicker. This isn't just a story. It's a critical piece of the puzzle that perfectly matches what the videos were showing.
So you see retracted flaps and the gear down, and your first thought has to be, okay, was this just a massive mistake by the pilots? It's the simplest explanation, right? But the more investigators dug into it, the less sense that made. In fact, that theory started to fall apart pretty quick.
I mean, just look at the experience here. Captain Sabharwal and co-pilot Kundar had more than 18,000 flight hours between them. These guys were seasoned veterans, not rookies making basic mistakes. And they were flying a Dreamliner, one of the most advanced planes in the sky, packed with safety systems. If those flaps weren't set right, the cockpit would have been screaming with alarms. The idea that both of these experienced pilots would miss something that obvious, it's basically impossible. So the focus starts shifting away from the pilots and towards the plane itself.
Okay, let's go back to the video for a second. Remember that small object that was seen dropping from under the plane? Well, it turns out that little thing is probably the single most important clue in this entire investigation. It changes everything.
So, what was it? It's called a ram air turbine, or RAT for short. Think of it like a tiny emergency windmill. When a plane loses all, and I mean all, of its power, this thing drops down, the wind spins it, and it generates just enough electricity to keep the most critical flight controls working.
And here's why that's such a huge deal. The RAT deploying is the smoking gun. It is an airplane's absolute last-ditch effort. It only comes out when the main engines have failed and the backup power unit has also failed. Seeing that RAT means that Flight 171 suffered a total, complete, catastrophic power failure just seconds after takeoff.
So that leads to the next massive question. How on earth do both engines fail at the exact same time? This is something that is almost unheard of. It's so incredibly rare. We're talking only 7 times in the last 70 years of commercial aviation. What could possibly cause that to happen, especially right at takeoff?
Well, investigators have a few main theories they're looking at. Number one, bad fuel. Maybe some contaminated fuel got in there and just clogged up both engines. Number two, a total electrical system collapse. The engines might have been fine mechanically, but the computers that control them lost all power. And number three, a catastrophic mechanical failure. Some fundamental defect inside the engines that caused them both to just give up.
And as the investigators started digging deeper, they found something really disturbing. This wasn't just about those final 34 seconds. No, this was about a long, documented history of red flags, both with this specific plane and with the company that built it. So get this exact same plane had a whole rap sheet of problems. Back in 2021, it had to make an emergency landing in Turkey because of a fuel leak. It had a history of windshields cracking and batteries overheating. But the real kicker, just hours before the crash, on the flight from Delhi, a passenger actually filmed video of the AC failing, the entertainment systems going dark. Basically, the plane's electronics were already failing.
You can hear it in the passenger's voice. The AC is not working. Nothing is working. Nothing at all. I mean, that is just a chilling warning, isn't it? It begs the question, how in the world was this plane ever cleared to fly again just a few hours later?
With a history like that, the investigation naturally started to look beyond just the airline's maintenance. The focus shifted to the people who built the plane in the first place, Boeing, and specifically, their big factory in Charleston, South Carolina.
And it turns out this Charleston factory has been under a microscope for years. Whistleblowers, people who actually work there, have come forward with some truly damning stories. They talk about a culture where pushing planes out the door was more important than making them safe. They allege that defective parts were used, that employees were pressured to look the other way, and here's a big one. They claim that metal shavings and other junk were often left inside the planes, right next to critical wiring. Think about that. A stray piece of metal could absolutely cause the kind of massive electrical short that could bring a plane down.
So as you can see, this isn't a simple case of one broken part or one bad decision. It's more like a tangled web. The evidence points to a whole system with failures at multiple points, which makes figuring out who's truly responsible incredibly complicated.
So who's to blame? You've got two main players. In one corner, you have Boeing, the manufacturer, with all these whistleblower allegations about shoddy work at their factory. And in the other corner, you have Air India, the operator, who had a history of maintenance problems with this specific plane and has even been accused of faking safety audits in the past. The real answer probably isn't one or the other. It's likely a tragic chain of failures that starts at the factory and ends on the runway in Ahmedabad.
And get this, according to a former Boeing quality manager, this wasn't just a one-off problem. The plane that crashed was supposedly part of a bad batch of 11 defective Dreamliners that left the factory between 2012 and 2014. She said the quality was so bad it literally kept her up at night. And where did a bunch of those planes end up? 6 of the 11 went straight to Air India. But maybe the most shocking piece of this entire story is this quote. When that quality manager, Cynthia Kitchens, told her boss about her safety concerns, he allegedly told her, "None of these planes are staying in America. They're all going overseas." Just let that sink in for a moment. It raises some really, really ugly questions about corporate ethics and whether all lives are valued equally when profits are on the line.
Look, the final official investigation will tell us exactly what happened. But from everything we've seen, the crash of AI-171 doesn't look like a freak accident. It looks like the final tragic result of a long line of ignored warnings and bad decisions, stretching all the way from a factory in America to a runway in India. And it leaves us with a really haunting question. When companies ignore safety warnings to save time or money, who is it that ends up paying the ultimate price?